All right, well, we're going to go ahead and get started. Maybe a few more people might trickle in here a little bit as we kind of go through the intro. Well, thank you for joining today's session, planning for a successful school year using CodeHS Pro. My name is Brandon. I'll be doing the majority of the presentation today. I'm an account executive. I'm based in Chicago. And also joining us is my colleague, M.R. Halloran. She's also based here in Chicago. She's a customer experience representative. So we're just going to go through just a couple things. I'm going to, as you probably all know, you are muted since this is a webinar. So I'm just going to kind of be going through the majority of this stuff that we're going to look at today. That said, if you do have any questions while we're going through it, feel free to put those in the chat. MR will be monitoring those and answering any easy questions there. There will be time at the end, so if there's questions that need a little bit more explanation or anything, we can talk about those things at the end, but feel free to throw anything in the chat and she'll be answering those as we go. So I just want to start with a quick little quiz just to see the type of people we have in here. So if you can, it would be great if you could go ahead and just scan that QR code on the left. Just like to get a sense of who's going to be in here so I can kind of tailor it if I need to and talk about it. So this is just a little poll. So first one, how many years have you used CodeHS? So if you could go ahead and vote in that little poll, just so I kind of know, do we have a bunch of mostly new teachers or experienced teachers or what? That would be great. So it looks like pretty good mix here. Most people, or the majority, have used it 1 year or so. Then there's a couple people who's first year, and then looks like one person maybe who they've been using it for quite a few years. So that is great. Next question, I'm going to move on. What grade levels do you use CodeHS for? So I didn't really put an option for both on here, so I didn't think that much about it. But mainly want to know, do you use high school, junior high? If you use it for both, you can just go ahead and mark high school as well. Just kind of wondering if we have any junior high teachers in here. And yeah, looks like most people are high school teachers. Great. Then the last thing I want to know, do you have a CodeHS Pro account? Most of what we're going to be talking about today is going to be focused on CodeHS Pro. So I just like to find out if people do have the Pro or they do not. All right, so it looks like, about, few people do have CodeHS Pro and a couple people don't. That's totally fine if you don't have it. A lot of the features I am going to be talking about today are going to be Pro features. So if you're not able to do it and you don't have a Pro account, that's probably why. But you can still learn about what we offer. And if you are interested in getting Pro, we can definitely help out with that as well. Also, hopefully, all of you have an account by now, but if there are any people who manage to kind of wander in here, don't have an account, you can go ahead and create a free teacher account just at codehs.com/signup. So hopefully everyone will have that, but I just wanted to give a link in case there's anyone who does not have one of those. So here's today's agenda. So we're going to kind of start off just talking about how to set up a class and how to get your students enrolled in the class. Then the majority of this will be, we'll also go into managing assignments. And then the majority of this is going to be a demonstration on the Pro tools and resources that I'm going to go through. And then I will leave time at the end for some questions. So we will be out of here in about 40 minutes or so from now. So we won't have to take too much of your time today. So I'm going to go ahead and switch my screen onto my Pro section here. Just go back to this one here. All right, so first thing, since it seems all of you hopefully have an account, this is the CodeHS homepage, which hopefully all of you are familiar with right now. So here you can see all of my courses that I have. So you can see this was from a couple years ago, these two sections, and these are a couple that I created for this year. If you aren't sure if you have a free or a pro account, you can kind of look right over here. If it says free, it means you have free. If it says free for all of them, it means you have free for all of them. If it says pro for all of them, it means you have pro for all of them. And what sometimes happens is you might buy pro for one or two sections. So that's why you might see pro applied just to certain sections and not others. So the first thing I want to do is just mention how to create a new course. So whether you're new to CodeHS or just kind of don't remember, basically what you're just going to do right up here is go to create a new section. And just so you know, it does take a little while to do some of these things. So in the interest of time, I'm not going to necessarily wait for everything to happen, but I'll show you a few things. So the first thing you want to do is choose a name. So this can be the official name, for your course. It can be, I have a couple of things that I've used before. Maybe it's just, third period APCSP. Whatever you want to name the course, that's totally fine. You can do that. And then after that, you're going to want to choose your main course for this. Now with CodeHS, you do have the ability to kind of just go through the course catalog and kind of pick things. But when you create a new section, it is going to give you essentially what all of our courses are right down here. So you can go search by all, high school, middle school, whatever. So I'm going to go here. And then once you're ready to, what course you want. So I picked this as my APCSP course. I would go ahead and just choose that course. Now, one thing to note, it does take a little while to populate the course into it. So I'm not necessarily going to create a whole new section here. That would take a while. But once you click choose, it's basically going to import all of the course content into that section that you just created. So now I'm going to go back to my home page here. And we can pretend that I just created that. And then here I have my APCSA course. So now what I'm going to do, you can see there's 0 students, which will happen when you first create it. And then if you want to let students enroll, there are 2 ways that students can enroll into your course. One, you can just invite them all by email. So if you have an email list, you can just go ahead and kind of copy those emails and put them right into this area here. You can customize your message if you'd like, and just send that to them. And once they get that, they'll just have a link right in their email that they can click on and kind of log in and create their username and password and things like that. The other option, I know most people are in person right now, but not always. But if you are in person, another easy way to do it is you can just put this link, right in front of the class. Or even easier, you can just put these last 5 digits on the front. Once students go into, if they just go to codehs.com and want to get into an account, it will let them just use that code right here, this class code, and they can just log in and enroll in your course that way. So you have a few different options on how to get students into your course. If you are using like Google Classroom, you can also import your Google Classroom right into your CodeHS section as well. So that's essentially how you're going to get your classes set up. Now, once you've done that, you might want to manage your assignments and your coursework a little bit as well to get started. So I'm going to go back into this JavaScript course here, mainly because that one has, my demo section, because that one has students in there that we can look at. So I'm just going to go in here and go into my assignments. So the first thing to know is once you import a course, it's going to have all of the course content right there. So everything in here, this is basically an intro to JavaScript course. Everything here is what's going to come automatically loaded into that course. Now, of course, you might want to add some things to it. So you can 100% do that. So one, if you go all the way to the bottom, a lot of our courses, if you click on search for content, will have some supplemental materials already built in that you can put on. So things like a midterm, some projects, extra practice, a lot of things like that are going to show up. So I'm just going to pick one. So let's say I want to go into I want to add this visualizing music to my course. So I can just go ahead and click assign. It's going to ask me what section I want to assign it to. So I'm just going to assign it to my demo section here. A couple other options going to ask you about on there. And then I'm just going to go ahead and assign that to my course. Once I've done that, if I refresh this, anytime you add something new to your course, it will show up at the bottom of the course. So if I go all the way down, you'll see visualizing music down here. And then you also have the ability to edit and kind of drag and drop things in your course wherever you want. So if I know that this is going to go, let's say above the more graphics and animation, I can just drag and drop, put it right there, click done. And now that has adjusted my course to include that. So you'll see that it's right down here. And one thing I like to let people know, if you are using one of our out-of-the-box courses, we don't really recommend editing the order too much. The main reason is for most of the courses we've built, the courses are scaffolded. So if you were to move things around, too much, you might get to a point that students haven't learned what they need yet in that course. It would be like jumping to chapter 5 in a math textbook and skipping over chapter 4. So you don't necessarily want to do that. But if you have more, just want to throw in things like an hour of code or something like that, you can always do that. And you can always search for other things from the course catalog. So let's say you just want to add in one unit from cybersecurity or something, things like web safety. You could just go into the course catalog, search, and pull that right into your course from there. That's a little bit about how to manage your assignments. All of that I've shown so far are things that are available with the free plan. From here on out, I'm mainly going to be talking about pro features, but some of the things will apply to free as well, so I'll be sure and point those out to you. So one of the first pro features I'd like to talk about from here are going to be the course settings, and specifically the due dates and access controls. Now, this is going to be a pro feature that's going to really let you control the pace of your course a little bit more and control what your students are doing. So as you can see, all of this here on the left, this basically correlates directly to what we saw on the last page, but you'll see a few more columns. So we have whether this is assigned to the students, there's a due dates, access controls, that means is it available to the students, locked or scheduled? And if you've scheduled, it has a start and end time on that. So you can do all of these things for a unit. You can click down here, do it for a lesson, or you can even do that down to the individual activity. So you can really put, due dates down to each single activity that they're doing. That might be a lot to do, but you can do that. So as you'll see, some things, a few things on here say some that are assigned. So that means that I probably went through here and unassigned something. So maybe for whatever reason, I decided to unassign the pyramid of Carol here. So once students get through this make a tower exercise, it'll just skip right over that and go right into the next lesson here, or the next unit, I should say. Also, I'd like to mention that you can make things available or locked. So some teachers, what they like to do is as they move through the year, they'll make the first unit or two available and they'll lock every other unit so students cannot work further along than this teacher might want them to do. And then finally, you can schedule things. So as you see here, I have my midterm. So right now, if you already know something like your midterm date or project due date or anything like that, you can put those due dates in whenever you want. But for something like the midterm, I have it scheduled to only be available on December 10th, that specific day. So it opens at 12 a.m. It closes at 12 a.m. the next day. If this is for a particular course, though, I can even go down to the minute. I can say, I just want this available from 9 a.m. I can say done for that. And then I want it to be available till 10:30 a.m. So I can say they have 90 minutes to do this midterm and nothing else. So it will not be open until then, and it will lock at that point. So that's a really good way that you can go through and kind of control the pace of your course and kind of make sure students are staying on the track that you want them on. One other thing I like to mention on this, I'm going to go right back to my assignments page, is for all of those things that we see here with due dates and access control, all of that I was doing was for my entire class. You do have the ability to do that down to the student level. This is really good for things like differentiation. So let's say I want to go to this big tower exercise here. I can configure it a little bit. So I can, from here, change things like, if it's available or not, how many points it's worth, that type of thing. But if I go into all settings, I can go down to the bottom here, once it loads, and I can configure this on a per student basis. So every student here, I can decide if this is assigned to them or not. So maybe for whatever reason, I decide to unassign this from Dirk here. I can set the due dates. Maybe if a student was out sick, I can adjust his or her due date individually. To copy paste prevention, that is a feature that we offer where essentially if you're worried about students cheating, you can turn off the ability for them to copy and paste code in their editor. I do like to warn people, anything, most stuff with computer science, copying and pasting is very useful a lot of times. So you really don't want to, do that too much unless you're really concerned about it, because it can make things a lot more difficult. We do allow block coding, and block coding is one of the only things on this page, or is the only thing I should say, where you're able to, with the free plan, adjust it on a per student basis. Block coding is essentially you drag and drop the commands on instead of making students type. So if you have ESL students or special ed students or anything, you can turn on those block coding or allow the blocks for them individually. And again, you can make things available, locked, or scheduled for each student individually. So if you do want to let a couple students work ahead, you can just go into this screen here and turn it on, make it either available for them, or you can schedule when it will be available for them. So that's a lot of what you're able to do in terms of the due dates and access controls. From here, I'd like to go into the progress tracking. That is just on the sidebar here under progress. Now this is going to show you a high level of where all of your students are in the course with this color-coded chart. So just so you know what all these colors mean, the gray, that means it's been unopened. That could be that you unassigned it to those students. It could be you told them to skip it for whatever reason, or they maybe haven't gotten there yet. The yellow, that means they're working on it, but it has not been submitted yet. The lime green here, that means it's been submitted and it's waiting for you as the instructor to grade. Pink means you've reviewed it and maybe sent it back to them to work on a little bit more. The maroon means it's been resubmitted after you send it back to them. And then the teal here means it's been finalized. So either you went in and graded it yourself, or this is something that you turned on the auto grader for, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And the auto grader did go ahead and grade that. So as you're going through here, you can really see where all your students are at. You can see where certain students start to pull away, that type of thing. Another cool feature on here is the time tracking. So if I go into under assignment progress, into time tracking, it'll keep the colors, but it's going to now switch to numbers. That's essentially going to show you how long each student has been working on this particular assignment. So this is really great, for a couple things. One, if you see, most students finish an exercise in 20 minutes, and you have a student who's been working on it for 40 minutes, you can proactively reach out to them. Similarly, if you see that most students have taken about 20 minutes to do it, and you have a couple students who did it in about 3 minutes, you probably know that there's something shady going on there. So you can, do whatever you might want to do with that information. So this is one of the pages that teachers really seem to like, really helps them manage their course a little bit better. Now go into course settings and the grading settings. And this is kind of what I alluded to a minute ago when I mentioned the auto grader. In CodeHS, a lot, not all, but a lot of the exercises have the ability to turn on an auto grader. Essentially, that just means when students submit it, it will grade it for you. Now, one thing that I like to, a couple things I'd like to point out with the auto grader. First of all, it is all or nothing. So the auto grader, it either gives them full credit or no credit. And it won't let them even submit it to you if it's not right. So it's not going to give them, if an exercise is worth 10 points, it won't give them 7 points, either 10 points or won't let them submit it. So you really want to be selective about when you do that. Now, you do have the ability to override the auto grader, but it is going to be all or nothing. Also, when you're going with the auto grader, if you do it too much, you're not going to know what the students are doing. So it's really, we like to say you might want to have some exercises be auto graded, some be teacher graded, so where your students' issues are and that type of thing. So you can always go through. If you want to make something teacher auto graded, you would just switch to teacher or auto. It's pretty straightforward how you're going to do that. And again, you have your entire coursework here, so you can see everything that's going to be teacher or auto graded. And again, this is not available for all of the activities, but it is, exercises, but it is available for a lot of them. From here, we're going to move on to the gradebook. So if you just click on here, right under assignments, here is the gradebook. Now, this is going to have a similar color scheme as the last page. So, they all mean the same thing, but it's going to give you some different information. So this is going to be where you can see all of the grades on a high level. So from here, you can see all the exercises or all the things that you decided to put into your gradebook. Some nice things that you can change things right from here. So if you think that maybe this shouldn't be worth 12 points, it's not that hard, so maybe you want to make this worth 8 points instead, you can just go ahead and change that, and it will update everyone's score accordingly to whatever proportion that would be. You could also change students' grades right in here. So if you don't want him to have 6.4, I can just change it to 7 points right from here. So you can always make those changes right here in your gradebook. And I'll go back to saved here. You can also configure your gradebook to see exactly what you want. So the first thing I have here is what I'm including in the gradebook. So these are all of the activity types. I'm only including quizzes and exercises. Just so you know, quizzes in CodeHS, a test or midterm or whatever, all of those types of things are going to be under quizzes. So I only have quizzes and exercises in mind. But if you want to put things like challenges or free response in your gradebook, you're welcome to do that. Similarly, what's going to show up in here. So this is what's counting in the gradebook. This is what's actually showing up in the gradebook. So again, I only have quizzes and exercises. Show flag on late assignments. So if you see these red triangles here in the upper corner, that means that I set a due date for that assignment, and it's either after that due date now, or this was turned in after the due date. So we'll show you, just so you know that those students were past the due date. You can also display the letter grade, so you can set up your grade scale for your school or your class and have it display that grade. Below, you can see the student permissions. So basically, this is going to let you have the option of letting the students view their grade report. So at any point, they can see what their current grade is in the course. Below that, you can choose whether you want to accept late assignments or not. So if you click this box below, it is going to finalize anything turned in after the due date to 0. Grade calculations. So that is whether you want to show this earned points out of total graded points or earned points out of total possible points. You can also enable weighted grading. So I haven't set up any categories here, but if you do want to set up different categories like quizzes, tests, projects, whatever, and have them be worth different percentages, you are able to do that, and it'll calculate those grades for you. So since I don't have that, I'm gonna go ahead and turn that off. And so, yeah, and so here, that is the gradebook. I also like to mention that you can export this to an Excel or CSV file. So if you are using, a different LMS system and you want to import your grades in, you can always export it and then import it into that other system. Now, I want to move into the actual grading in our system that's called Code Review. So I'm going to go into the Code Review here. So here is where basically all the grading happens. Anything that you need to grade, you can do that. Now, before I go into the code review, I like to mention this really cool feature, the student help questions or conversations that we have. These are really useful, in a lot of ways, just to have students ask questions, get feedback, get clarification, that type of thing. So let's say this student, James here, he's having a problem, he's trying to get this to work, it's not working right, he can just go in and ask you a question. So he can go into conversation, he can ask you a question. So he says, I don't get this, I turn right, it's not working. And then you can just answer right here, say, check line 9, check your indentation, check your spacing, whatever you want to do. You can write anything that you would like to. And basically, it can just go back and forth as much as you would like. So this will essentially look like a text conversation on this individual exercise. So this really works in case you have, shyer students who don't want to raise their hand in class and ask. If, hopefully you don't, but if you have to go remote again, this is another way to help and make that, work for you. Also, it's just a good way so students aren't, clogging up your own school email inbox, and they can just keep everything to CodeHS right in the system. Now, going back to the grading, I like to point out the fast grade feature. That is something that comes with Pro, but I do like to mention the difference between the regular grade mode and fast grade. So grade mode, basically the way it's going to work, you have all your student stuff that you need to grade. So with grade mode, essentially you're going to have to run the code. So you run it, you can speed it up if you like, you can see what's happening, and then you go in and grade it. You can, award full credit, 0, give feedback, whatever. Now, this is just a very basic program where you're just moving Carol the dog, 4 spaces and having to pick up a ball. If you have something that's like 110 lines of code for a project, that's going to take a little bit longer and be a little harder to grade that way. So we have the fast grade feature. This is going to work a lot more like, what you're used to with an answer key and a test that you might see, in other subjects. So essentially with fast grade, you are going to have on one side, the student code that they submitted, on the other side, the solution code, and you can just compare those two side by side and see if it's right or looks right and if it's right or wrong. Of course, sometimes, again, when there's a lot of code and, with coding, there are a lot of things, not a lot of ways to do the same thing and get something working. So you might still want to run the code. So you can always do that. If you press this play button, it will run the student's code. And if you press the key button, it's going to run the solution code. So that's going to really let you see what it's supposed to look like versus what their code is actually doing. And once again, you can award full credit, 0 points, finalize it, send it back to them, whatever you might want to do from here. So that is the grading. Now, the last thing I want to talk about are the lesson plans. So if you go into your toolbox, click on lesson plans. Basically, you get all of the lesson plans for whatever course you're doing with the Pro plan. With the free plan, you do get the first like 5 or 6 lesson plans for whatever course you're doing, but you get all of those with the Pro plan. So you just choose what course you're doing. So this is my JavaScript that I'm doing here. You choose what lesson you're on. So let's say I want to go to this while loops, and then you click on that, and then I have it open here. And so here is the detailed lesson plan. So this is really going to be all of it you need to run, this lesson. So it starts with an overview of what this lesson's about. You have your objectives here. Here are all the activities that are going to be in this lesson. Most of our activities kind of follow the same general outline, our lessons do. So they start with a video that introduces the concept, have a little check for understanding quiz, some examples students can work through, or you can work through the class, and then some individual exercises. With the Pro plan, you do have the ability to print out the slides if you want to give them to the students, or just view the slides if you want to go through them yourself. So if you want to add your own anecdotes or stories or whatever in the slides, as opposed to our videos, you can go ahead and do that with the Pro plan. Solution references, these are basically the answer keys. So you get those here. You can also get the solution references with the free plan. They're just not located in this lesson plans area. Problem guides, go into those in a second. You get your vocabulary here. So if you have your students, taking notes on vocabulary words or doing a word wall or anything like that, you have the vocabulary introduced in this lesson. We have some handouts that you might be able to print out to the students they can work on. A lot of our courses, not all of them, but a lot of them will have textbook resources that go with them. So you can get those. Planning notes, teaching and learning strategy, prior knowledge that students will need, some discussion questions for the beginning and end of class, modifications for advanced students, special education students, or ELL students. And then we have the standards that are going to be addressed in this particular lesson as well. Again, everything you really know or need to know to be able to run this lesson. And I do like to go into these problem guides because they're very cool and very useful. These are kind of like answer keys with a lot of extra stuff in them. So besides just giving the answer, gives you a lot more that you can use. So give you things like the description of what this activity is about, the motivation, does give you a solution, some common questions. So, you know, these are common things that issues that students have as they are working through this. So good example here, Carol's in an infinite loop. So in this course, infinite loops have not been introduced yet, but, you know, through coding and how that tends to work, students can still make it happen, even though they don't know it's happening. So you know, students might be confused. And so it gives you a pretty easy answer and way to answer that question with that student, and just some things to look out for that might happen. And something new that we added for this year are these explain this to me videos. You know, it's basically, I'm not going to go into it because it takes a little bit to load, but it gives you the password. It's password protected, and it's going to explain the concept of this video. So even if, or sorry, of this lesson. So even if you're teaching it, you know, sometimes you might not be super familiar with it. So this is really for you as the teacher. It's a video made specifically for you to make it easier for you to explain to the students. So yeah, that is another cool feature here with the problem guides. So that is most of the pro features that I wanted to show. I'm going to move back into my slides here to kind of wrap this up. Oops. Sorry, stop sharing this for a second. Too many windows open. Sorry about that. Give me 1 second so I can find my screen again. But essentially, you know, the last few things I was really going to talk about, it's not really too much there. It's essentially just to let you hear about a few more things. Here we go. Now I found it. So let me go back into present. So we kind of went through most of the things on here: class setup, enrolling students, managing assignments, pro tools and resources. I am going to take some questions in a second. The last few things I'd like to mention, oops, go on here. New feature we added in the last couple of months is the ability to edit quizzes on CodeHS. So, you know, we give quizzes and end of unit tests and all those things, but sometimes teachers want to add things to it, or they might think it's too easy or too difficult. So you have the ability now to edit those quizzes yourself. We call it forking. So under configure, you just see a button that says fork. Essentially what this is doing is, if you think about, if you use Google Docs or Google, slides or anything, basically making a copy of it that you can edit without changing the original one. So then you have both versions, and you can just assign your version of that quiz or test to your students instead of the one that we already created. So that's a new feature. Next, this is a pro tool as well. I'm not sure, if you guys are mostly at the school level or at the district level, or where your contracts are at, if you do have the pro, but we do have some integrations with different LMS systems like Schoology, Google Classroom, Canvas, Blackboard, Kimono, and ClassLink. The different LMS systems we can do different things with. So some of them we have grade passback, some are rostering, some are single sign-on. So if you are a customer already, hopefully all you have, at least those of you with pro accounts, that's something you can talk to your customer success manager about. So now we can take any questions. So I know MR has been going through and answering a lot of the questions in the chat. So MR, are there any questions that that I should address for the group right now that came in?
Yeah, we actually had one that was asking how to access the auto grader again. So just if you could do a demo of the auto grader and what it does.
Yeah, sure. Let me go back to that. All right, so just as a quick reminder, the auto grader, basically that is where you can turn on the way basically to auto grade your assignments. So if I go back into my progress bar from here, just to show you the same way that I got there last time, but you can always get there just from the course settings area and go into grading settings. And so it's going to give you basically what the options are here. So you can make an assignment teacher graded, which just means that you're going to have to go in as the instructor and grade all of that yourself. And the auto grader, again, those will be automatically given full credit and graded. So like I said, it does not give partial credit. It's either all or nothing. And they need to pass all of the test cases in order to submit it. So our exercises do have a number of test cases. So let's say it has 4 test cases. It has to pass all 4 of those in order for the auto grader to accept it and give it full credit. Other questions, MR, that were on there?
Nothing else on my end. If anyone has any last ones they want to type out. But so far, nothing outstanding.
All right, so we got everyone done about 9 minutes early. So I will stick around in case anyone else has questions. This is, I believe, I'm not able to unmute people just because it's a webinar. So I saw someone raise their hand. So if you do have a question, please type it into the chat box and we can answer it that way. But anyone else, you're free to stick around for any questions. I will leave, like I said, I'll stay in the room a little longer in case there's other questions people have. But if not, thank you all for joining and good luck with this new school year. Hope it's a good one. All right, so the question was, the auto grader is not able to check for proper comment code or responses. No, so comments, since that is not part of the actual code, the auto grader will not check that. It basically only checks the actual code that's in there. Comments are usually not considered part of the code, so it's not going to check that. I'm having trouble controlling access to lessons. Can you go over that again? Sure. So essentially, once you're in the assignments, and again, this is a pro feature. So if you don't have pro, you won't be able to do it. But you would just go into the course settings and go to due dates and access controls. Oops, oh, I just turned mine off too. Apparently mine is having some glitches right now. I'm not sure why I said, let me try another one. Yeah, I saw someone say, email me about the pro. If you could leave your email address and kind of what city and state that you're in, because we do, the people who email, we're all regional. I'm an executive myself. We are regional, so if you could let us know where you're at, I can definitely have the right person reach out to you. Or if you're in a different country, you can we can reach out to you there. So here's my access control. Not sure why it didn't show up on that last window. But so again, you have your entire course over here, and you can do it by unit, by lesson, or by exercise. You can decide if it's assigned, what the due dates are, change the access controls, or if it's a specific time, start and end time. All right. Any other questions from anyone? All right. Looks like that might be it. Let me see how many are left. A few other people in here. So yeah, like I said, if anyone else has other questions, I will stick around and answer those if anyone has any. But it looks like a lot of people have left at this point. So, feel free to send any other questions you have. I saw someone, can you give students the opportunity to retake quizzes? Yes, you do have the ability to let students retake the quizzes. All right. Yep, and then MR also just put that into the chat. All right, it looks like only one person left, so I'm not sure if you're typing out a question or just haven't left the Zoom room. So if you are typing out a question, you want to just let us know that you're doing that. Otherwise, I'll be closing the room in a minute or two. So.